Welcome back. You're watching the Global Dialogue. We're in conversation with the CEO of British Airways, Sean Doyle. You know, talking about the airport experience, and the horrors of what happened in 2022 have been sort of imprinted on everybody's memories, people who were traveling through Heathrow. But do you think that a lot of the issues that constrain, and you were forced to bring in restrictions as well on account of what happened with the airport. Do you believe that that side of the story has now been addressed and sorted?
Yeah, I think the ecosystem last year was under pressure, not just at Heathrow, but I think at a number of other European airports. And what we had to do really was rebuild what was a very long established ecosystem in the space of about 6 months. And there's a lot of, how would I call it, links in the chain that need to synchronise and coordinate together. And that was very challenging last year. This year, it's a lot better. At British Airways, we've brought 10,000 people in last year. We've another 2,500 have joined in the first 4 months of this year. So I think the resources are certainly in a much, much better place. I think what we all need to do with the ecosystem is make sure that we're training and skilling people up to the level that we historically associate with aviation. And I think that's, very much progressing along the lines as well.
Is that your number one challenge today?
I think it's a challenge, but we're really encouraged at the progress that we're making. And, I think this year's experience will be much, much better than last year's experience. But, busy periods always represent challenges, as we can see.
Mm-hmm. The business has gone through significant disruptions on account of the pandemic. And we have, of course, seen the recovery being very swift as well as very strong. But given the outlook at this point in time and the economic uncertainties that we're seeing on account of what's happening in Europe, what's happening in China, and so on and so forth, that doesn't seem to have muted demand in any way at this point in time. IAG has upped its profit forecast for the full year. So things looking strong from a consumer perspective.
Yes, but I think what we're seeing as well is, of course, people really appreciate the value of travel. And when people couldn't travel for more than 2 years, there is a lot of pent-up demand, and we've just got to see how far that pent-up demand takes us. I think you've got to be very vigilant about the economic cycle. The one thing I would say as well, though, is the industry is heading into whatever comes our way, probably with a lot less capacity than it would have done coming off the top of a typical economic cycle, because everybody's still rebuilding. And I think the kind of the dynamics between supply and demand, in the next 2 or 3 years will be different to what you would expect if you go into, tougher economic times historically.
You're right in pointing that out. But, given the fact that we're likely to see capacity not matched supply at this point in time, or demand at this point in time, the need for agility and how you're sort of rewiring things, reorienting things within the company from a people point of view, from a technology point of view, just to be prepared in case we deal with any future shocks.
Yeah, of course, and I think the aviation industry, understands that, because we've been through so many, forms of crisis in the last 25 years. We are nothing if not resilient. So I think we're very vigilant. I think we've got to manage our businesses very carefully. But also, I think one of the things in the pandemic that we did learn was about agility. And, we turned our airline into a cargo airline, more or less, in the space of 3 months. And actually, India was a very important market for cargo operations. And we were able to kind of move into spaces where demand was there and come out of spaces where it wasn't very quickly. So I think, the muscle memory of being quick and agile will serve us well as we head into whatever the future holds.
That's an interesting example that you gave us, and I think many airlines in India also experimented with this transition on the cargo side, especially when the restrictions were in force. But what are the other adjacencies that you believe you could explore, in the future that make sense for you strategically as an airline? Well,
I think if I look at us as a group, we have developed a group loyalty platform, and we have a currency called Avios, and actually we now have Iberia, British Airways and Aer Lingus all use that currency, and Qatar Airways are using that currency. So we think kind of, winning hearts and minds of customers through strong loyalty programs is a very, very exciting opportunity for us to develop. So a strong cargo business, I think a very strong loyalty business, and of course, never losing sight of the fundamentals of flying planes to places people want to travel to. And, they would be our key focus areas at the minute if we look at both British Airways and International Airlines Group.
So coming back to India, the next 5 years, how do you anticipate the role that British Airways is likely to play in the Indian aviation market? Well,
I think it's very exciting, because I think we look at our mission, our purpose is to connect Britain with the world and the world with Britain. And if you look at the ambition to double trade between India and the UK, in the next 10 years, we want to be very much part of that. And we think, air services play a critical role in enabling it. So we want to be, at the front of expanding service. We'll have the fleet and the product, and I think the history of serving the market, which we think is a strong advantage. But it's very exciting, and
so
that's why I'm here this week.
5 cities could be what?
Well, I think it's got potential, to be more cities. Look, we fly to 31 cities in the United States. 15 years ago, we probably flew to about 22. So, we've increased our footprint in the United States by a third over the last 10 years. We'd love to look at sort of those kind of opportunities in India. But I don't have specifics yet, but, I would be disappointed if we don't see those kind of opportunities come along.
Speaking of opportunities and from a people perspective as well, how significant is India going to be? How significant is this call center going to be in being able to allow you to operate globally to the standards that you wish to?
Well, I think, India is the biggest market for employment in British Airways outside of the United Kingdom. And that's, representative of the size of the network we have here, but also, I think, representative of the kind of talent and capability we can, attract and employ in the market. So it's been very inspiring to meet the teams here. The capability, the energy, the enthusiasm and the passion is something that I love, and it really gives us a lift when we go back home. So, I think India's got huge potential in terms of its human capital, and again, we want to be part of making sure that British Airways can access that human capital and that human potential.
And I want to go back to the global picture because especially as far as aviation is concerned, the one big thing that is not in your control is oil prices, and you can't do anything about that. But what are the other cost levers at this point in time? You talked about digitization and what you're hoping to do there to bring in efficiency. What are the other significant cost levers that you haven't yet fully addressed and you hope to be able to eke out more from?
Well, I think one of the things that will help is as we begin to rebuild and grow, because airlines tend to be heavily operationally geared. And I think when you get your capacity back to pre-pandemic levels and probably fly to the extent that you would like to, that has a big benefit in unit costs. I think you also have to look at ways in which you can make sure you're investing in the things that customers do really value, but not invest in the things they don't. So I think the customer experience has got to be something which is a constant cycle of continuous improvement. But also, so
what's the feedback telling you? What do customers want at this point in time that you're focusing on? Well,
I think the first thing that we offer is a fantastic direct network. Out of the UK, we fly to more cities and destinations directly than anybody else. And that's a hugely important competitive advantage because it gives us, I think, convenience. Secondly, I think they want to be empowered more to control their journey through digital experiences. And we have a very, very big investment program to make a step change there. I think thirdly, it's about consistent delivery. And, we need to make sure that time and time again when people fly with us, what the experience is a service that matches their expectations continuously and consistently. And I think that requires a lot of discipline and a lot of focus by everybody in the company.
Yes, I would imagine. One of the, of course, challenges as well as the opportunities for the aviation industry globally is sustainability and moving towards the goals as far as sustainability is concerned. I know India's expressed reservations on moving to sustainable fuel by 2050, and the experience for different countries could be different, is India's point of view, and that should be factored in. How do you read the transition at this point in time?
Well, I think, one thing I would say, we've always been very ambitious on this transition, and IAG was the first company to commit to net zero by 2050. We were the first group to commit to 10% SAF by 2030. And we've already signed up a lot of SAF deals to make sure that we can meet those commitments. I think what we do need, collectively, is to make sure that we have enough supply, because I think SAF is not going to be the only answer for sustainability, but it's going to be a very important one. I think we also need, obviously, to have carbon offset and carbon capture programs that we invest in. And I think the industry's been the first to kind of self-regulate in the form of Corsia. But also we need to make sure that we're investing in new technologies. And we've invested in a company that is developing hydrogen capability. But I think that's more of a longer-term solution. But if we're going to meet these ambitions by 2050, we need SAF. But SAF isn't the only answer.
If SAF isn't the only answer, one, of course, you talked about the supply constraints as far as SAF itself is concerned. How do you see that playing out over the next few years? And specifically in terms of other answers, you talked about hydrogen, and India is hoping to be the leader as far as green hydrogen is concerned, for instance. What could the other answers be? Well,
I think hydrogen plays a role, obviously, in terms of SAF production. But, other answers, I think, could be, as you say, hydrogen for short-haul travel. But also, I think, there is an onus on the manufacturers, whether it's Airbus and Boeing or General Electric and Rolls-Royce, to continue to develop the existing technologies so that we make planes, such as long-haul aircraft that may not be hydrogen ready in the near term, as efficient as we can. And I think we'll watch with interest, what the next evolution of wide-body aircraft is, because we should be seizing the opportunity to make sure that we transform the efficiency of those type of planes as well.
Mm-hmm. So, as CEO today, what would you consider as being the big risks that you're factoring in, as well as the big opportunities, at least in the near term for the year ahead?
Well, look, I think the opportunities are we continue to rebuild and we continue to modernise and invest, and that's very exciting for everybody at British Airways. I think as an airline, you're always looking at the cycle, and always I think what we need to make sure is that we get the right regulation and the right frameworks to make sure that we can, deliver on our commitments for sustainability, because the industry takes it very seriously. I think it's very committed to self-help, and I think we need global frameworks that are applied consistently to make sure that it's a level playing field in getting to that net zero target by 2050.
Well, Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure. We wish you the very best of luck with your plans here in India and, of course, with your plans globally as well. And we look forward to hearing more from you about what you intend to do here in India in terms of expansion over the next few years.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you joining us. Well, that is it on this edition of the Global Dialogue. From all of us here on the team, for now, goodbye. Thanks for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news continues.